Hey everyone and everything. In this video, I'm going to be talking about sacred animals in Rome again. And in this video, voice recording actually, I'm going to be speaking about more sacred animals in Rome that were considered sacred. I made two previous videos on how canines and felines were considered sacred animals. In Rome, in addition to the canines and the felines, which is, the cats and the big cats, the small dogs and the big dogs or whatever, in addition to that, there were birds, certain birds that were considered sacred. Okay? Now look, this doesn't mean in Rome that every single bird was considered a sacred bird. It really depended on what type of bird, etc. Okay, see the same thing with the canines and the felines. It doesn't mean that every single cat is going to be a sacred cat or every single dog is going to be a sacred dog. It really depends, So, the sacred birds in Rome. Now, if you look at all the Roman symbols, you can get some ideas on what birds were considered sacred in Rome. Okay? The eagle. If you look at the banners of Roman, or the bearers of the flags or the standards of the Roman legions, you will see that there's birds on the banners, several different kinds of birds. Sometimes you see eagles, sometimes you'll see maybe a falcon, or maybe sometimes even a vulture. It depends, you just have to do some more research. Apart from that, so this is just to explain that avians, flying creatures, birds, yes, they were also very sacred in Rome and in the Roman culture and arts. There was portrayal of several kinds of birds, So yes, birds were also considered sacred animals or wildlife creatures in Rome, both the male and the female. Okay, same thing with the felines and the canines, the male side of them and also the females of them. Okay, so both aspects, male and female sacred animals, were taken into consideration. It wasn't just the male and it wasn't only the female. It was both. Okay, same thing with the birds. Now, roosters and hens were also considered sacred in Rome. Like if you see these chicken fights, they were also pretty common in Rome. It depended, though, maybe not so. It was more of a backyard hobby just to have chicken fights, and do some gambling on, which chicken wins. Someone would bet, someone would, So these activities were also common in Rome, these rooster fights, and sometimes hen fights also. So in that way, the rooster and the hen were also considered sacred. Now, this doesn't mean every single rooster and hen is considered sacred. There's certain types, maybe certain kind of, bird species. So yeah, this is just to explain that birds were also considered sacred animals. Now, Rome didn't really have an air force. So in Rome, there was a saying, if Rome needed an air force, it would be the birds, If you look at this, these feathers on the Roman helmet, they're usually from birds' feathers for a reason. You know, if you look at these feathers, and I said there's a link between the Romans, the Native Americans, and these civilizations in Latin America, as in Maya, Inca, Aztec. If you look, there's something very similar, that all of their headdresses have birds' feathers of these animals. You know, the Native Americans wear bird feathers on their headdresses or helmets or headwear. The Maya, Inca, Aztec also wear these feathers, you know, of certain birds. In Rome, the helmets of especially Roman officers, tribunes, generals, you know, they'll be wearing some kind of bird feathers, you know, of some kind of a bird species that was considered sacred in Rome, or something that was honored in Rome. So this is to explain why birds were also considered sacred in Rome. Now, it also depends on. Now, if you look at the rooster, you know, they also have something of kind of like a mohawk, kind of a something similar on a Roman helmet. Maybe some have it with spikes, and some, you know, there's several types, but you can see that's also something, maybe it's an inspiration for some Roman helmet designs. Okay, this crest of a rooster. If you look at that red kind of a mohawk thing on a rooster. So yeah, also the turkey bird, you know, was considered sacred. And you know, all these kind of symbols. So that's all I have in the video. You can check out some links in the description box below if you're interested. The best thing to know on which birds are sacred in Rome is to just ask, you know, the elite of Rome, the generals, the trustworthy oracles, the anointed priestesses, you know, wise members of the Senate, wise military generals, the Caesar, obviously, you know. So yeah, that's all I have in this voice recording. Check out some links in the description box below if you're interested.